All right, really just to put a bow on last season, I mean, what an amazing year. And really just looking back on the last 5 years, I mean, 5 AFC championship games at Arrowhead, 3 AFC titles and 2 Super Bowl wins. I don't think you have that level of success unless your organization is operating on a high level throughout the department. So just really quickly want to thank Clark Hunt, Mark Donovan, our amazing coaching staff. You know, two groups that seem to always get overlooked, but at this time of year I always want to make sure I say a special thank you to them, and that's our training staff, Rick Burkholder and his crew do an amazing job, and Ted Cruz and his staff. I mean, these guys do so much behind the scenes, and they take a lot of stress off of coach and my staff, and also take a lot of stress off of Pat Mahomes. So that's a big deal for us. So I want to thank Ted, and then lastly, my staff. Love seeing them this time of year. You know, last year we came here and there was a lot of questions about our roster and, you know, how do we turn the page? And I think when you have the GM Blue Book, it kind of says smart free agency and build through the draft. And I think I've learned over the years that as you have more and more success, that becomes more difficult because the players cost more and you're picking late in the draft. So, you know, last year we really had to, you know, slam dunk this thing from start to finish. And it was one of those years that GM dreams of. Just, you know, everything seemed like worked out, whether, you know, it was the offseason with Juju, MVS, and Jay Reed, Carlos, and then the draft. Players from Trent McDuffie all the way down to Isaiah Pacheco, rounds 1 through 7, helping us out. So we'll certainly be happy to take the pats in the back this combine, but no, once we leave here, it'll be starting from scratch again, and we'll be ready for that challenge. So with that, I'll take questions. Yeah, I mean, it's an option. You know, we went through this path last year, and as always, Herbie, you know, it's more beneficial for us to get something done long term, and you know that's why this season is so important for us, and really this is the start. I mean, we'll have a lot of dialogue. You know, as you know, I mean, the combine's great to come in here and check out the new college talent, but a lot of the time here we're spent talking with the agents of our players. So start exchanging information now. Unlike last year, I think we have at least a runway to work with, and you know we've gotten to know his team a little bit better. So, you know, we're excited to get that process started here, and hopefully we can get something figured out.
And you mentioned that because last year you didn't have an agent. How beneficial is it, do you think?
Yeah.
Help the process this year?
Yeah. I mean, it's a big deal because I don't think we started that until really late in the process, and you know, time became a factor there. So I think, you know, that's certainly gonna help facilitate things, and you know, we'll just go to work right away and see what we can get done. Yeah, I think the unique thing about Patrick is he can really play any style of football, and we've seen it throughout his career. I mean, he can play the up-tempo running gun stuff, but I think, you know, last year was a good kind of turning point for our team, and, you know, we saw a lot of different coverages, and teams forced us to play patient. But I think, you know, when we looked at that trade last year, I think in our mindset we knew you're not going to find another Tyreek Hill, so let's just go out there and get good football players. And the cool thing and the advantage that we had is that Pat can play any style of football. So he can work with the bigger receivers and play more of a tempoed game and just play the small game if we have to. So I don't think we ever thought we're going to go out there and find another Tyreek Hill. Certainly speed and athleticism, versatility will always be at the top of our list, but really we just want to collect good football players. I don't think the age one, as far as Tyreek Hill, I mean, you know, that speed, I mean, any team is going to want that. I think it's probably more imperative depending on the quarterback. I mean, like I said, I mean, the cool thing about having Pat Mahomes is certainly if you get him a Tyreek Hill, it makes your team more dangerous. But I think Pat showed yesterday that, you know, or not yesterday, but last year, that he can, you know, work with a variety of skill sets and be effective. Good. Yeah, I mean, the Senior Bowl is certainly a very high priority list for us in regards to, you know, how we come about our process. And you know, Jim Nagy, I mean, he's worked in the league for a long time. I mean, he knows what we're looking for, and he does a great job of reaching out to GMs, reaching out to scouting directors to make sure that that game is run the way it needs to be. And I think if you just look at our roster, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Noah Gray, Kadarius Toney, the two corners last year, I think if you just look at our roster, I think it kind of tells the story of how important the Senior Bowl is for us. Yep. Well, I mean, it's funny because, Denver started to turn the corner there right at the end of the season and played some really good football. And now with Coach Payton, I mean, they'll be even more dangerous. And I think Russell kind of got into a groove late. Our division is really tough, and I think that was one of the things that really helped us in our playoff run. I think, playing, the Chargers twice a year and the Raiders, and, the Broncos got off to a little bit of a slow start, but I think they played good football late. And certainly Coach Payton only adds to the degree of difficulty of having to get through that. So that'll certainly be a challenge. What was the second part of your question? Oh, okay, yep. Yeah, I mean, we'll probably, to a certain extent, need some cap space, but, we have a long history with him and his agent, too, so he'll be one of the many conversations we have this week, and look forward to getting with him and seeing if we can work something out that makes sense for both parties. Yeah, I mean, it's extremely difficult. I think you just got to be buttoned up on your free agency plan. I don't think you can go in there and have, a set of A, B, C, D. I mean, you have to just, have a plan, stick to it, and knock it out of the park. And if the plan doesn't work, you got to move on quickly. And I just think the level of communication that we have with our coaching staff, because, I mean, you do obviously have to hit on the draft. And, when you have the rapport that we have with my staff and our coaching staff, I think it helps in that process because, the scheme and the vision and the fit, I mean, we're all on the same page. And I just think the fact that Coach and I have worked together for so long, and even Coach Spags and I have been together for a long time now, I think that continuity is something that has really helped us transition to that second part of Pat's contract where it is difficult. But I think you guys saw last year that, all the rookies that we drafted, I mean, were major contributors. So I think it's very difficult to do, but I think the continuity plays a huge role in our success. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge advantage for us just because I think we know what our offseason looks like for the, by and large. I mean, it's always going to change, and I mean, look, the cap's going to go up now, and hopefully now we have had some successful off seasons and everything's back to normal, knock on wood. Things will continue to get better and better and better, but the big part or the big piece of that puzzle is something that we have a degree of certainty, and things will have to get changed and adjusted as we go there as well. But just knowing that Pat will be here for a long time, and knowing that's the biggest part of that pie is accounted for, just helps us focus our attention on the offense and defensive side and not have to worry about the most important piece.
Couple more guys.
Yeah, I mean, we always try to stick to best available. It's probably a cookie cutter line all GMs use, and it does become difficult sometimes when you have certain position groups that are really deep, because you do think maybe he's a little higher in value, but there's depth in that position, so maybe you can get something similar. So it's just working the board and really trusting your guys at the end of the day. Handicapping teams and their needs is a big part of that, and that's where our pro department comes into play in this college process, just kind of projecting what other teams will do. But I mean, yeah, you always try to stick to just the best player, because it is a game of attrition, so you can sit there and think that you're deep at a position. I remember a few years ago we thought we were really deep at defensive line, and within the first 3 or 4 weeks we lost 3 of them. So you always want to make sure you take the best player. Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, that's a fair question. It's a good question. I mean, on one end, I mean, we have Pat Steele done. On the other end, we'll certainly have to monitor the rest of these deals, and we have a lot of years with Pat contracts. So, I mean, that's something we'll have to read and adjust as time goes. But, I mean, we'll just see. I mean, all these teams, are structurally different. How they handle contracts like this are different, and how the cash flows are different. So it'll be an interesting time frame. And we had to go through that that hurdle there. Now Cincinnati and San Diego and these teams have to go through that there. So I'm kind of like you. I'm anxious to see how they work their deals, and we'll be taking a look at every aspect of how they do that.
Last question.
Brett, talking about the receiver position, going to the draft, 2019 team at Epson there. You guys move up from Jacob Colbert last year. George Pickens is sitting there, Luke down, Steelers taking the take Scott Moore.
Yeah.
Just can you talk about those two over the draft picks and the decisions, and then your overall philosophy on the receiver position? Because kind of what in a different direction with the smaller, more athletic guys versus the bigger physical guys?
Yeah, I don't think that the physical attributes in regards to I mean, we're looking for good football players, and we're also looking for a room fit, a cultural fit, how they fit with our coaching staff. I mean, there's so many things that we take in consideration. Every year when you have these drafts and you see whether it be a mock draft or guys listed on the board. I mean, I think people tend to forget that there's a lot of dialogue. It's not like the Chiefs like smaller receivers. No, I mean, we like good football players, but do they pass the medical? Do they pass, the interviews with our coaches, with our offensive coordinator, with our receiver coach, with our head coach? Is the chemistry there? Do they feel like they'll be a good blend in our locker room with our current receiving group? So there's a lot of things that factor into it. And, I think in both those cases, I think we felt like the fit from the health, medical grades to the, how they interviewed with us and, how we thought they'd come in and catch on quickly and how we can move them around, things like that. I think we take all that in consideration, and sometimes there are factors, and I'm not saying anything to do with those two guys, but just as a whole, I think there's a lot of underlying information that we have to just be accountable for, and sometimes they move you in a different direction, and you continue to just move on and learn from each experience.
All right, thank you.
Yep.